So Lucas, right? Tell us about Origami, how you guys got started, what are the goals, what problem you were trying to solve? How did you guys get started in all this?
Yeah, actually, do you want to start with this one?
Sure. Let me take this question. So for our listeners, maybe we just introduce a bit about Origami. We are a decentralized, non-custodial money market on Aurora, and we currently offer the money market services such as deposit and collateralized lending. We are currently one of the top 3 protocols by TVL on Aurora, and we support 8 of the largest assets in the ecosystem. So in terms of our vision, right, what our aspiration is that we want to become the foundation of a thriving DeFi ecosystem by being the leading liquidity aggregator on Aurora. So to us, that means 2 separate things, right? Firstly, for the end users, we aim to offer a seamless experience for them to not only supply liquidity to Origami, but also to interact with the wider Aurora ecosystem. And secondly, of course, for developers and other application builders, what we want to do is to become a key building block for them to integrate and access liquidity. So that's the kind of goal or vision that we have set ourselves.
What were you guys doing before this? Were you guys working in the Aurora space, or were you working more TradFi money markets? Kind of like, what's like the ethos or background of the team?
Oh yeah, I joined space in crypto space in 2017, and I worked to decentralized exchanges before. One is Kyber Network, and another one is tokenz. So the team is fairly familiar with the DeFi space.
Very cool. And why did you guys choose Aurora to hop on?
Yeah, I think Aurora is quite an interesting ecosystem to be involved in. And I think when we start talking about Aurora, I think the first thing that we have to take note is that technical uniqueness of the ecosystem. For the listeners here, just to explain, right? So Aurora is actually a smart contract layer on top of Near. So what that means is that as protocol builders, we actually get the dual benefit, whereby we get to enjoy the faster settlement that's done on the Near chain, but at the same time we get to access all the EVM toolings. So it's quite a powerful features when it comes to building protocols. The second reason, of course, is that for us, it was quite apparent very early on that Aurora and Near are attracting serious backers. If you've been reading the news, you would have known that just this year alone, Near has raised 500 million across 2 different rounds led by really big names, right? 3 Arrow Capital and Tiger Global. So this is critical, right? Because strong backers like this, what will happen is that they will do serious capital injection into the ecosystem to fund growth. And this will then trickle down in the form of incentives and rewards to protocol builders like us, right? So it kind of kicks off a self-reinforcing virtuous cycle whereby VCs pump in liquidity, attract more protocol builders to come in, build more innovative products, and of course, attracting more users and more liquidity. So a case in point is that when we started building on Aurora back in November, we are looking at actually a TVL of around 100 million for the entire Aurora ecosystem. Now, 5 months on, Aurora ecosystem is actually at close to 1 billion TVL, right? So that's the 10x growth. And we are pretty confident and we are really hopeful that this kind of trajectory will go on. And looking at all the signs so far, we are quite confident that we'll be able to play a role in that.
Okay, so a good tech, lots of liquidity like piling into Aurora. You guys kind of are positioning yourself as a money market or like a gateway into the Aurora ecosystem. Can you explain a little bit more how that works?
Yeah, sure, definitely. So as a native money market on Aurora, our success is directly tied to the vibrancy of the Aurora community. So as you may know already, Aurora currently has close to 1 billion TVL, and it's 10x from the number 5 months ago. So we believe that creating a seamless onboarding experience for new users will help the ecosystem to unlock the next 10x growth for the in terms of TVL. So this is where we feel that we can play a positive role by including some essential features for the first-time users. So for example, by integrating in-app bridges and gas faucets to make it convenient for users to bridge their assets over to Aurora and explore the Aurora ecosystem through Origami. And once users have bridged their assets over, our job is then to entice them to keep their assets within Origami by offering some innovative product and features.
That's awesome. What's going on, everybody? It's Cowboy here. This has been some great love on the Aurora Near side. I think it definitely fits the narrative that we're seeing right now. I don't know which one of you guys said it. I think it was EY mentioned that when you guys started, Aurora was only 100 million in TVL, and now it's up over $1 billion. And I think Near, their market cap's quite a bit bigger, but they've kind of seen the same level of growth and attention over the last several months. It seems like all the eyes are kind of flowing to this Near and Aurora ecosystem narrative. I'd love to take a second just for you guys too to explain why Aurigami is different as a lending and borrowing protocol versus some of the other lending and borrowing protocols on Near. I know you guys have some innovative features, and you guys just mentioned that you guys have some cool products.
Maybe I can go first, and Yang can add anything later. So we started as a compound fork. So at this moment, in terms of features, we are not very different from other lending protocols, but we have some exciting new features that we plan to implement. For example, like to integrate with fixed rate derivatives to offer fixed rate lending. So this is something that's going to differentiate us from other lending protocols in the future. And also one thing currently that is unique to us is our tokenomics. So we are using a dual token model, which we believe will help us to align our liquidity miners' interests with protocol success long term. So our tokenomics is designed in a way that it encourages positive behavior and creates incentives that prioritize long-term growth. We also recognize that attracting liquidity at the early stage is important. So our tokenomics design rewards early participants generously while ensuring that the circulating supply of our company's token increases gradually. So this is achieved by a progressive locking mechanism that encourages delayed gratification.
Awesome.
Very cool.
That was a lot. Some big words there. I love, man, I was just going to dive into their dual token model is actually insane. Not even insane, but just insane used in this application. Go ahead, Brian.
Before we get into that, you're kind of glossing over a huge feature that is really, really big differentiator within the space, right? A lot of the other kind of money market lending platforms are variable rate, right? For people that are not as hyped or as engaged in the industry, why is fixed rate lending more important than variable rate?
Yeah, I think this is something, if we want to bring DeFi to the mainstream, then we need to provide a user experience that mainstream people are familiar with. So in the traditional finance, people usually borrow with a more predictable and fixed rates. But currently in DeFi, because asset price fluctuates a lot and their liquidity goes around to different places, so that impacts the interest rate a lot. So I would believe this is a big resistance for some mainstream users, and that's why we should really put resources in it and focus to provide fixed rate lending and therefore to onboard mainstream users.
Yeah, so that's super important, because what we're basically saying is you're taking the volatility out of the lending. As long as people lock up and they get the fixed rate, it's not some lending volatility all over the place. It's something that people can count on, which makes it more sustainable and reliable. And what I'm hearing is that you feel that bigger bags and more institutional, more TradeFi investors will come in because of that.
Yeah, that's right. And it's also will be more friendly for retail users.
That's awesome. That's super cool. I mean, I played a little bit in the money market lending space before, and you go from one platform and it's some interest rate, and then the borrow and supply is off and inverse or crazy numbers, and just having super kind of stable rate, I think is super important. So, and it's predictable that people can use. All right, Cowboy, what else do you got?
I mean, no, this is right on theme with your kind of TradFi note there. One thing that caught my eye while I was reading you guys' dual token model was the pulp token is almost used as a bond. It's like a bonding feature. And so I would love for you guys to dive into that a little bit more, as I think that's pretty important to long-term success of y'all's protocol, along with just long-term success of user value.
Yeah, sure. So actually, our tokenomics design, this dual token model, is inspired by DeFi Kingdom. But what they did is that they locked up a portion of your token, and you can only claim them in a future date. And in our case, we feel it would be good if we give the option or allow people to gain some liquidity for this locked token. So that means for our pop token, it's more like a maturing token, or you can see it as a voucher to redeem its one-to-one supply token in a future date. So I think one benefit of having this design is that if our liquidity miners, their interest is no longer aligned with project long-term, they will have the option to kind of exit. But because we have this design, so they will exit at some cost. because we believe the POP token will be treated as a discount to Ply token. Whereas for the users of DeFi Kingdom, their token is locked. So that means they don't have a way to exit if their interest is no longer aligned with the protocol. I think this is the same problem for VE token model. When the holder's interest is no longer aligned, then it's not really easy for them to exit.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was just about to say. With the VE token model, it's almost like you have to choose in the beginning. You have to project how long you'll be aligned, right? With Curve, I've got to project sometime in the span of 0 to 4 years that I'll be aligned with the protocol and want to lock up and hold, which can be good for the protocol, sure. But if the user's incentives are no longer aligned, you don't want a user to be resentful. So offering the option to get out just at a discount seems like it keeps both the protocol and the user's incentives aligned.
Yeah, exactly.
That's brilliant. I'm excited to see how this plays out. I was kind of playing both use cases. So will you holding pre-mining all the way and trying to claim just in week 1 and see how that would play out versus pre-mining all the way to say week 50 and then claiming a whole bunch of Ply versus a whole bunch of PULP. So I'm curious to see which route most users choose.
Yeah. We are also looking forward to it.
Okay, not financial advice at all, but how are you guys playing it? Are you playing the game yourself, or are you just like, hey, I'm a dev, I'm not playing this game? Or if I was a friend, obviously not financial advice, are you bonding for the long term, or what do you think? How should somebody think about this game?
For me personally, I'm definitely going to hold my POP token. Actually, I will delay the time to claim my reward. So that means the longer I delay the timing, I will get more percentage in Ply and readily available. And actually, we are going to give some utility to the Ply token. So that means when I do the claiming, I can put my Ply token to work. So in the short term, we plan to make Ply a collateral asset on our platform. So that means people can deposit Ply and borrow other assets and mine some more Ply in the meantime. And we also will create a liquidity pool to allow users to pair their Ply with USDC, and they can stake their LP token to get some reward as well. And in the long term, we plan to decentralize the decision-making process for the protocol, as Ply is the governance token of Aurigami. So Ply holders in the future will be able to create proposals and vote on the protocol parameters and upgrades.
There we go. You heard it here, folks, first. Non-financial advice. You just heard how one of the founders is playing this little game theory game. Didn't you guys have something launched today? Like superboost or something like that?
Jan, do you want to share more about Boost?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
So,
fill us all in.
Yeah, we just launched the superboost event. Essentially, what it is that we are giving out $2.5 million worth of near rewards to 5 of our largest assets, right? And this will last for the next 2 weeks, right? The reason we're doing this is actually to start to build momentum towards our token generation event, which is happening on the 5th of May, right? So it's really an exciting time, right? For the next 3 or 4 weeks, what you'll be seeing is what we hope that will happen, of course, is that you will see lots more involvement, the community will grow, and of course, the liquidity will start to increase as well. So if you pop over to our website, you will start seeing higher than usual APY essentially. So it's a time-limited superboost event to create the hype, of course, and to reward some of the early users and early believers in the project.
Okay, this is nuts, dude. I'm looking at your site. 30% APY on a stable right now.
Yes.
Like, that's pretty nuts.
It is very tempting, right?
Yeah,
it is. Yeah. It is nice. It is nice. It's very Justin Sun of you guys.
the inner DGen is going to be moving some bags today.
Oh my gosh! Yeah, I literally just texted.
Yeah.
I just texted someone saying, "Hey, let's get ready on this."
Yeah, we literally just started like 1 hour ago, so it's a good time to join.
Oh, dude, alpha drop right there.
I know, we're early. Brian, this is the same team too that used a no-loss lottery as like a little growth hack on their way up as well. I never actually saw, guys, if you could fill me in on what actually did it like succeed? Did it go well at the end of the day? I remember when you guys launched it and I was like, oh, this is a clever little growth hack to get some liquidity going.
Yeah, so we did a lottery campaign and we named it as a no-loss lottery. This means for users, they don't really need to pay something like to buy the lottery ticket. They just need to deposit, and then we will deposit the money for a week. Then we will grant them the lottery ticket. And at the end of the campaign, we are going to run the lottery and reward the winners. Actually, the goal of this is to attract liquidity outside of the Aurora and Near ecosystem to Aurora, because we are whitelist bridges of multi-chain and Synapse protocol. So for their users, when they visit Aurigami, they can see a banner tells them they qualify whitelist for this campaign. So this kind of encourages them to bridge their assets over and deposit on Aurigami. So that's the way we kind of help to grow the ecosystem together.
Yeah, no, I liked that. Like I said, I remember seeing that and I was like, wow, that is a super clever way to attract cross-chain liquidity. And I'm sure the guys over at Multi-Chain and Synapse appreciated that as well, because that's just incentivizing people to use their bridges and try and come over to Aurora and play around a little bit. That's awesome. I was also reading through, and I know you guys have some plans for under collateralized lending. So my question is, when under collateralized lending?
For this feature, it's still in quite early stage. We expect it to be a long-term effort actually after fixed rate lending. I can share a little bit about maybe some of the potential approaches we can go for the under collateralized lending. So I think there can be two ways. First is to work with some institutions, like KYC institutions that has pretty good reputation, like in the traditional finance world. And then we can whitelist their address and allow them to collateral less assets than just regular users. So this is a way to make the capital more efficient on our platform. There are some projects Ethereum that is already taking this approach, and the result is pretty good. And another way is to work with some protocols to create a credit line for different addresses based on their historical behavior or on-chain positions.
Is that like on-chain credit?
Yeah, like on-chain credit.
Ooh,
so in the
cool.
Traditional finance world, you see different people, they actually borrow at different rates because of their credit. So it's possible that in the future, people can have KYC'd wallets and have their credit score connected to their credit score from traditional credit bureau. So that way we can maybe lower the collateral ratio for those accounts. And I know there are some projects working on doing the analytics of on-chain behavior for all the wallets. So that way we can probably customize the collateral ratio for those addresses as well. For example, if they have huge position of and compound and they are only borrowing a little on Aurigami, then it's possible we can give them a better collateral ratio or utilization rate.
That's sweet.
Super.
So it's like you parlay the fixed rate lending into the under collateralized loans. The under collateralized loans are backed almost by institutional players, and you kind of bring on-chain credentials into existence, on-chain credit into existence. That's pretty sweet. I kind of see the future here playing out like that. That's cool.
Is the thought process because if you can have under collateralized lending, you're actually going to create more lending opportunities and then have a more abstracted market, right? Because like in the traditional space in TradeFi, obviously you have FICO and credit scores and which people can like lend against. I'm assuming the idea here is if you can get an on-chain credit system, you effectively can lend a lot more and create larger amounts of liquidity. Is that correct?
Right, and users can borrow a lot more as well. Because currently with over-collateralized lending, basically you have to collateralize, for example, $150 to borrow $100. So this is only a use cases for a small amount of people, I believe. For many people, they definitely want to borrow more because in traditional finance, many people, they use credit card, they don't really collateralize anything, right? So over-collateralizing is not very capital efficient.
Got it.
So is that the plan then, to just get more borrowers, is to incentivize borrowers just by having like a fixed rate?
Yeah. So more capital can be borrowed with for example, amount of liquidity supplied. So that means higher deposit rates for liquidity suppliers and also higher revenue for the protocol as well.
Higher revenue for the protocol. Sounds like I should stack up on supply. All right, so you got this. Another thing that we wanted to talk about were AU tokens. Can you share details with us or share how this works?
Oh yeah, sure. So AU tokens, if you are a user of Compound, you may already be familiar with the concept. So AU tokens are similar to the C tokens of Compound protocol. It's a representation of balances supplied to the Aurigami. With AU tokens, users can first earn interest through the AU tokens exchange rate, which increases in value relative to the underlying assets. And then number two, to gain the ability to use AU tokens as collateral. We are also looking to have AU tokens integrated into other protocols to increase its utility, such as stable swap for AU USDC and the AU USDT.
Very cool. So essentially, you're kind of making it like the token is like an abstracted token layer that people can use and lend against and borrow against as well, right?
Right. Yeah. Try to make the token more useful.
And then so there's like a derivative then can be used in different types of strategies. That's super cool. Do you guys have any seen any vaults or anything like that being built on top of you guys, or seen any other? I know we got the pulp ply strategy, but have you seen any other vaults or any other kind of structured products that are coming out on top of Aurigami? Because a lot of this stuff, for me personally, I never was in the bonding or money market game. Some of these strategies can be complicated. Is there any recommendations? Well, I know it's not financial advice, but have you seen any vaults built on top of Aurigami yet?
Actually, we are in talk with a few yield aggregators. So cool. I believe in the future, you can fund or get our liquidity mining reward with those yield aggregators. Definitely in the future, I believe there will be a structured product, but at the moment, we haven't seen any in Aurora Ecosystem. Excited to see if any developer will create those kind of products.
Hint, nudge to anybody out there. Yield aggregators, vaults on top of Aurora. Okay, let's talk about the dark side of lending and when token price go down. How are you guys handling liquidations or really kind of choosing the tokens that you have on the platform? What happens, or how do you guys help protect your balance sheet on a liquidation event?
Yeah, so that's a pretty good question. And we are very serious about the overall healthiness of our market. So we do lots of evaluation before we list any assets there. So first, we want to make sure the product, the asset has Oracle that is safe to use. So it's not can be easily exploited by hackers. And then we want to see the product has good liquidity on different exchanges. So currently we are using Trezor for liquidation. So we want to make sure the asset has good liquidity on Trezor. And then last thing is to make sure the asset is follows the standard ERC20 design. So this way we can avoid some possible way of attack, for example, like a re-entrancy attack that's exploited some of the other lending protocols. And actually another safety measure we have is to add a deposit cap to the assets if the liquidity is not that deep. So that means in a big liquidation event, the loss can be limited.
Right. Are you guys doing some calculations as float versus liquidity? How deep the pools are versus the float as a health score?
Definitely.
Yeah. That's super smart. All right. So we're not going to see Shih Tzu coin on there anytime soon. Proof of finger? No?
Proof of finger. That's good.
All right. But on the liquidation side, you're basically leveraging Trezor to arb out any of the liquidations. Do you guys do that manually, programmatically? Do you guys take care of that?
Yeah, programmatically, we have a liquidation bot that is monitored the system. And actually, the process is open to everyone. So
very cool.
Yeah, other developers, they can also become a liquidator.
You could build a liquidity vault or something similar like that on top of you guys, on top of Aurigami.
Wink, wink, nudge, nudge.
Anyone else out there, right? Yeah. Lots of opportunity flowing for new protocols.
Yeah, it is. That's very funny. Cool.
Should we open it up to questions? Does anyone in the crowd have any sort of questions, comments? We got the ballers behind Aurigami here, so speak now, forever hold your peace.
I would say also the hashtag wink wink should be applied here. Oh, we have actually a person who wants to ask. Go ahead.
Hey, so I did have a question directed to Aurigami. I'm with Rose Protocol, by the way. I was wondering how you guys are going to separate yourselves from Bastings. Obviously, you guys have pretty similar products, so I was wondering how you're going to sort of stand out from the competition.
So I think one difference, because Rose is a stable swap, we are actually in talk about partnership about having AU USDC and AU USDT there. for the stable swap. So one thing we are doing differently is we are more keen to work with the partners in the ecosystem and to grow together. So that's why we are not developing our own stable swap, and we prefer to work with the existing partners. And in terms of product and features, we are, like I shared before, we are focusing on more innovative features that other lending platforms do not have at the moment, like fixed rate lending, by integrating the fixed rate derivatives. And also in the long term, the under collateralized lending as well.
So to sum up, it sounds like you're saying, Lucas, the product features going forward will start to differentiate from the other lending and borrowing verticals on Aurora, aka the under collateralized lending, maybe the on-chain credit, etc.
Exactly.
Cool. Thank you very much for answering my question.
Sweet. Now, whoever's behind the Aurora community account, maybe can come in and ask some questions.
Origami team, what can we expect or users expect next? Or is there anything else that you wish we would have asked you?
Oh yeah, sure. So we have an exciting few months ahead as we start to roll out the different features on our product roadmap. So in the short term, we are focusing on creating utility for governance token play, such as LP staking. And also our liquidity mining will remain attractive to continue attracting liquidity and reward early supporters. Like Yang shared before, currently we have at least 2.5 million worth of boosted rewards. So it's a very good time to bring your assets over to Aurora and deposit with Aurigami. And in the medium to long term, we will kickstart our innovation zone, which is listing long tail assets on a isolated market. So this is something quite huge in our opinion, and the users can look forward to.
Very cool. If you have one ask to the community, Aurora community at large, or anything else, like if you had one thing, what one thing would you need, or what do you think that you could make Origami even more successful?
I think for the Aurora community, there can be two things. One is that we need to supply liquidity and also earn some play rewards to become part of our community and also the owner of the protocol. And another thing is because there are many projects out there, if you see any other projects they need liquidity, just feel free to recommend Origami to them or maybe connect us with them. So we want to be a key building block of the Aurora ecosystem and being integrated into as many protocols as possible. So if the community can help us to do that, that would be super helpful.
Totally. I think you're talking to the right guys. I mean, the AlphaGrowth team has helped bring over 35 projects to the Aurora ecosystem. So I think we should take some time and sit on the sidelines and kind of like walk through, because there's like 35 with another 30 projects coming over to Aurora over the next like 2 months. And any one of those that you want, we can help bring in, introduce to Origami and get you guys like liquidity and supply and tokens, because there's some baller projects coming over.
Yep, that's awesome.
Yeah,
very exciting.
Totally. Cool.
Well, sounds good, everybody. Origami team, thank you guys so much for joining us. We really appreciate all the alpha you guys dropped today. I hope it put a little fire under everyone's belly, everything that you guys are doing. I think you guys are going to change lending and borrowing as we know it here going forward.
Yeah, totally. Thanks for having us. It's really a great talk.
All right, you heard it here. You hop onto Origami, 30% APY on staking stable coins, 27 on USDT, over 30% on USDC. It's crazy. How long does that go for?
We are running it for 2 weeks. And after 2 weeks, we are going to have our token event. So that's really...
Hell yeah.
Oh,
all right,
yeah.
so the next 2 weeks, you get it while it's hot.
Right.
$2.5 million being dropped to the community, and then you're going to learn TGE in 2 weeks. You've heard the alpha here. Thank you so much, guys. Really appreciate your time.
Thank you. It was a pleasure hosting you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.